The Stanley Cup Finals are tomorrow, and I'm telling you, there are many reasons why you should watch the Stanley Cup Finals, but I'm going to give you one reason in particular why this might be the most important finals that could impact your team directly. I'll tell you more coming up here on Locked on Blues.
You're Locked on Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked on Blues. I am your host of Locked on Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues, here a part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked on Blues, I will be telling you reasons to watch the Stanley Cup Finals, what the Blues should do in the later rounds of the upcoming draft, and of course, my favorite Friday segment, as you know, Are We Feeling Blue? A lot to get to on today's episode, a lot of talk about the draft, a lot of talk about the finals, but most importantly, a lot of talk about the future of the St. Louis Blues. Before I dive any deeper on today's episode, I just want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKED on NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I hope everybody is having a good Friday, June 7th. Listen, we have made it now 5 out of 5 days without having live hockey. Tomorrow begins the Stanley Cup Finals, and you might be wondering, Hale, why would I watch if I'm not a Blues fan? Well, for obvious, very obvious reasons. On the Florida Panthers, you have Vladimir Tarasenko. Obviously, that's why I'm rooting for the Panthers, because of Vladdy. I want to see him get another cup again. And it would be kind of funny to see what happens with the curse of Corey Perry on the Edmonton Oilers. But the reason why you should be watching the finals is because of the free agents that will be available after the season. Okay, I know. It's a bit of a stretch, but a lot of these guys are in the Florida Panthers, and you have guys, honestly, like, a Montour who's going to be a free agent. You have Sam Reinhart. You have different guys. Tarasenko will be a free agent. You have a lot of guys that will be free agents after the conclusion of the finals. I encourage you, even if you're not a Blues fan, right, but you're just a hockey fan and you want to see, how these free agents will be playing if they're on your team, please watch the finals, because I am telling you, you are going to see such great competitive hockey. And yes, I understand it. Sometimes, like, when your own team isn't in the finals or not in the playoffs at all, like in my case, here being a Blues fan, yeah, it can be a little bit discouraging to watch these games, because it's always like, oh, well, what if my team was in this? Well, no, the reality is your team is not in it. But the reality is that there's players on the teams that are in it that could be on your team. I mean, a great comparison, and I know we ended up beating the Bruins, but think about the fact that Torrey Krug was on the Boston Bruins and is now a St. Louis Blue. And, we played the Bruins in the finals. And did you ever think, oh, yeah, Torrey Krug is going to be on the Blues? Probably not. But it's one of those things where, players in the NHL all the time go to different teams. And with the amount of free agents, especially in Florida after this season, it is fun to watch them, because you could kind of think in your head, okay, I could see him, being paired up with this player, on the blue line. I could see them in this line. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could really envision different players in different positions. Now, the one thing I will say is, though, like some of the guys like Sam Reinhart, to me, very expensive to acquire. And I do believe that, the Panthers are going to try to contain him within the organization. I don't see him going to another team. I see them making a very solid offer for him. But a guys like Brandon Montour, yeah, you know, sure, he is a good player, but he's a little bit older, so I could see the Panthers maybe not offering him something and another team will. I think it's silly to look past these guys and think, oh, well, just because, they're in the Stanley Cup Finals, they're going to be too expensive. When the reality is there's still other factors like their age that determine a lot of it. I mean, no one's going to sign a guy that's 32 to like a 6-year deal. Okay, that's very rare to get that kind of deal. It might be a 1 or 2 year, and when I'm talking right now about Montour. So let's just say hypothetically the Blues decided to sign him. Okay, 1 or 2 years, that's fine with me, right? Vladdy, I know that he's not going to come back to St. Louis. Even though I said all along that I wanted him to come back to the Blues, I know that's very unlikely to happen. But as an example, let's go say they decided to get, Tarasenko back here. It would probably be a 1-year deal. And that's okay. I think right now what the Blues do need is younger talent, which is why a guy like Sam Reinhart, I understand he's going to be expensive, but that's an investment that you want to invest in. Right now, the St. Louis Blues, they only have one first round draft pick. Last year they had three, this year they have one. That concerns me a little bit, right? Um, not because I don't think that this draft is extremely special, but it concerns me because I'm like, okay, well, obviously there's a plan cooking up if they're not going after some of these prospects. And I'll talk about that, later on in this episode today. But the Stanley Cup Finals, it's also an interesting thing to watch. Besides the players for free agency, you also kind of want to get a feel, and this is just me, of what the teams need to do. Because every season, and let me explain this. Every season, the NHL changes, right? Um, back in the day, you could fight all the time, and now you can't. So it is interesting to see the two teams that made it, the two best teams, the best of the West and the best of the East, how they play against each other. Because then the Blues could look and say, you know what? One thing that I'm noticing is that their power play is done perfectly. This is how we want to mold our power play. Hey, maybe the penalty kill isn't something we need to focus on as much if we have this strong of a power play. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it just gives you a more clear idea of what your team needs to do to be in that level. Now, considering the fact that the Blues are, about 5 years out of, being Stanley Cup champions, I'm sure they have an idea of what it takes to, win it all. And I'm not doubting that necessarily, but I do think that the game does change every season. It's a season to season thing. And you got to adapt to how the NHL is. I mean, right now we saw a crazy amount of hits, especially against that Florida and Rangers round. Crazy amount of hits that were not called. Okay. I know that, the NFL officials don't like to call things deep into the playoffs. That's just always kind of been a thing. We know that best with the no tripping call that thank God we didn't get called for that. But it's one of those things where it's like, I watch these games and I imagine, okay, what can the Blues do to get there? And I think that's a very important way to look and watch these games because it does suck, right? At the end of the day, what do I want as a Blues fan? What I want as a Blues fan is to see the St. Louis Blues in the playoffs. Is that going to happen? No. Why isn't that going to happen? Because of stupid mistakes they've made in the regular season. Now, luckily for St. Louis, and this is the one thing I will say though, a positive outtake. If they did win a couple of those games against the San Jose Sharks, the Blackhawks, Columbus, they would be in the playoffs, right? I mean, you could also say the same thing against like teams that beat the Blues that were good teams, but I'm just saying like teams that were beatable. The Blues have an advantage because they were so close this season that, and I keep on saying this, that they don't need to rebuild. So even if you go after a defenseman like a Montour, that could change up the game completely. If you acquire a guy like Reinhardt, and I'm not saying that obviously it's a very good thing if you had him on the team, but where would you put him? And those are questions too that I'm asking myself, as a fan, as somebody that wants to see this team succeed, is okay, let's just say we do get these players, where are we putting them? And that's the issue. Because right now with our forwards, I'm having a really difficult time replacing guys on that second and first line. I'm struggling. Because I do feel like the guys that are in the first and second line deserve to be there. I do. Third and fourth, you could definitely switch it around a little bit, right? But obviously, if you had a Sam Reinhart, you would have to put him in the second or first line. Well, then who are you moving down? And that becomes the issue of tweaking it all up. And I don't know if the Blues need to do that. I think that they're okay offensively where they're at. Maybe acquiring a guy that's good in the third or fourth line, just, to make it a little bit stronger, especially that third line. But my legitimate concern is defense. So that's why I mentioned Montour. I know Marchessault from the Golden Knights will be a free agent when free agency hits in a couple weeks after the draft and all that. But I think about these things because I'm thinking about how this team can improve, how this team can be better. And I'm thinking defense, I could see them with a million different kind of it's like puzzle pieces, right? I could see them, moving one player, to the third pair. I'm seeing all these things. When it comes to the forwards, I'm having a really difficult time saying goodbye to certain players from certain lines. I love our first line, I really do. But if a player of such significance came into our organization, would I be okay with them moving that said player that's been on the line already? I guess I would have to be, right? Whatever is going to benefit the St. Louis Blues is what I'm supporting. And I want to make that loud and clear. Whatever decision that is made that's going to make this team a better hockey team, I am going to support it. What I will not support is making moves just for the sake of making moves. And that is my concern. I trust Doug Armstrong. I do think that he is a good GM. I do. As much as sometimes I'll complain about him, I do think that he is a very smart businessman. I think that he is a good GM, and I think he knows what he is doing. I would also like to believe, during the trade deadline that he stood pat because he knew that he couldn't get any deals that were good enough. And I think that the position the Blues were in, if they could acquire a player of such talent, 100% they would take them, right? Why wouldn't they? The Blues had nothing to lose during the trade deadline period. They didn't. So, as I said, please watch the Stanley Cup Finals so you can see for yourself some of the players that will be available during free agency that could really benefit the St. Louis Blues. So, I'm going to talk to you, my friends, over at about some life insurance stuff. So we have a lot to get into after that when I'm going to be talking to you about the draft. So this is my friends over at Policygenius. Okay? So Policygenius helps you easily compare your options from America's top insurers in just a few clicks. Their award-winning agents can even walk you through their process step by step. A lot of life can be unpredictable, but good life insurance plans gives you and your families a financial safety net to protect against some of the unknowns. Policygenius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It makes choosing the right policy for your family easy and quick. With Policygenius, you can find insurance policies that are just $292 per year for a $1 million coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. Okay, so this is what you need to do. Okay, Policygenius has no initiative to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. They have thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs. Get peace of mind by finding the right life insurance with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com. So, the NHL draft, what the Blues need to do. So, here's one thing. And again, next week I'll begin naming more players again. But I just want to have an open can of conversation about what I think is best for the St. Louis Blues because this is what I care about. If you're going to go with a defenseman, right, in the first round, I know I talked about Adam I did talk about Adam yesterday, right? I really think they need to go for maybe like a winger, maybe a left winger. They need to go maybe for a center. They need to go more forwards, right, as it gets later in the draft. The reason why I'm so adamant about the Blues getting a defenseman in the first round is because I feel like that's what the Blues need to work on is their defense. However, I don't want the Blues to neglect other valuable positions, right? I had Russ Cohen on Sportsology a couple weeks ago. It was a great episode where he really dove deep into the draft and he explained, what could fit best for the Blues. Some of these prospects that, we don't even know about because there's no reports on them. I mean, there's reports, but nothing like major, right? I think that the St. Louis Blues are in a position where they're good at developing players. We've seen it before. And they also have a lot of draft picks considering in some of the later rounds. So, right? So, I think when it comes to the second round, you have to be realistic, okay? You really have to be realistic because in the first round, we all know what's going to happen, right? We all know that, the St. Louis Blues had the 16th overall. And a lot of, places, I know I talked about Adam yesterday, a lot of places did predict that we would get him. Some people said that he's going to fall the second round. I still think that we're going to get him. But then you go to the round 2. And a guy whose name has come up quite a bit is a right winger, okay? His name is Miguel Marquez. And I think that he actually could be a good fit to the St. Louis Blues. And here's the thing about him, right? He's 18 years old. He is 5'11", and he's a right wing, which honestly could be very valuable to us here in St. Louis. I know I've talked about that before, but I think what makes it most important about him is that I think that he honestly could be NHL ready soon. And I know I said that about, Adam yesterday, but I want players that could be NHL ready soon. Now, I don't think it's going to be as soon, right? I mean, right now he's with the Lethbridge Hurricanes in the WHL. Do I think that he is somebody that is going to be like a star, draft prospect? No, I don't. And as I said, it's not like there is that many good prospects left after the first round. As I said, there were some obviously earlier in the second round, but not that many great ones in the first round. Okay. He has been ranked all over. He's been 54, 38, 68, all over the place, or even 28. Okay. So some outlets do have him going first in the first round, which I don't agree with. But I guess, hey, at the end of the day, like, they see something in him, which is good for the Blues. And the reason why I bring this up is I really believe, and we can make some bets right now here on Locked On Blues. The first round with our 16th overall pick, we're going to go for a defenseman. Our second round pick, we're going to go for a winger, specifically a right winger. I really genuinely believe that. The draft is exciting. But what happens after the draft is more exciting with free agency. So this is a really cool time to be a fan of the Blues, to be a fan of embracing the offseason, because there are so many potentials that could happen, right? Between the draft, between free agency, and heck, even within the team itself. I think that at the end of the day, I trust what we're going to do here in St. Louis. I really do. Does it make me nervous sometimes? A little bit, right? How could it not make you a little bit nervous about what's going to take place? But here's the other thing, too. You have to also think of guys that are going to fall. Now, unfortunately, though, and here's the thing, we have 2 second-round picks, right? We're also at 56. And call me crazy, but Will Zellers, right? He's a left winger, and I really think that he could fall. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I know I said about Sam Dickinson falling, and I know everyone kind of came at me. Everyone was like, Haley, he's not going to fall. I get it. Okay. I get that I maybe was a little bit delusional in that one, but he's at the University of North Dakota right now. And again, good skilled player right now. And I do think that he has the potential to maybe in 3 or 4 years be ready. The reason why it's so important too, and he's from Minnesota too, by the way, which I just think is funny, but the reason why I do think that it is kind of like a cool thing, to play in NCAA, right? It's a whole different ballpark than playing like, the WHL, all these things, right? I think that he's going to get great experience. I think that he's going to be a very well-developed player, but most importantly about Zellers that I like is his ability to skate. He is a great skater. So I do think at the end of the day, we're going to see a guy that truly knows how to play the game of hockey and will bring a lot of high-speed stick handling, okay? That's the other thing, too. He's a great passer, so it kind of is like a Robert Thomas vibe. So, again, with a couple guys that I named, it should get you a little bit more excited because, as I mentioned, I'm watching tapes of these players, right? And I'm always taking notes on like what I like. Zellers, what I liked most about him was his passing. I did. And whenever a guy is good at passing, you know what that means? Good hockey IQ, because it means that you know how to read the puck and to read the rink. So again, going back on my notes on all of my tapes that I've watched, because sometimes there's hard players to find out there on social media. But I find the tapes and I report back to you. But again, Will Zellers is a guy that the Blues select him in the second round. Do not be surprised because he is a very, very good prospect, okay? Whew, that was a lot of talking about prospects, which makes me want to talk about something else that I find very fun. And what might that be? That is my friends over at Game Time. Game Time makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute tickets, all-in prices, and views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. You can pick out any specific game or matchup that you would love to attend, talk about any good deals you see from these games, and literally let me know what you find, because I've had so many of you that want to go to Cardinals games, by the way, tell me, "Hey, Hale, I want to go to this game. I see a deal. It's like $20. Should I do it?" And I'm like, "Yes, that is a great deal." So let me know whenever you want to find something, let me know, okay? The app is honestly super easy to use. As I said, you get your last minute deals, you get flash deals, zone deals, all in pricing, seat views, lowest price guarantee, and also game time ticket coverage. Okay. So much to do with game time. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code locked on NHL LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Finally, my favorite Friday segment. It is Are We Feeling Blue? Was this a good week for the St. Louis Blues, a bad week for the St. Louis Blues, or kind of in the middle? For me personally, this was a good week for the St. Louis Blues because on Locked On Blues, I hit 1,000 subscribers. Yay. No, I'm generally very happy about that. I don't think that this was a bad week. I don't think this was a good week. I think it was just kind of like, a typical off-season week. I think it's good for former Blues players, like a Vladimir Tarasenko, who will be taking the ice in the Stanley Cup Finals. So happy for him. It's weird, right? Because it's like such an off-season time. Kyra was posting pictures of him golfing, so was Hofer, and I'm like, wow, this is off-season. This is what the off-season is like. It's so boring, and I hate it. But I think that there is a lot of potential and a lot of excitement for the future of this team, and I think that's what this week showed me. I mean, when we're thinking about the draft, of course that's positive right now. Do I want the Blues to maybe trade up a little bit and get another first rounder? Absolutely. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't know. I don't make the decisions. But, as a fan base, I think that this was a good week. I mean, it was good for the Cardinals. So, I mean, that's positive. I know that's not Blues, but still, it was still good for the Cardinals. But when it comes to the Blues, though, and here's the thing, we're going to have weeks where we don't know if it was a good or a bad week. We got to reminisce on that game 5 where we beat the Bruins in the finals due to our non-tripping call. And I think that was a positive. I think that we had a lot of reminiscing this week. And I know what next week is. It's We Went Blues Day. Because the great Brett Hall said it himself. They always say go Blues. Well, we went. So it's We Went Blues. And, I'm excited for the 5-year anniversary. I am. I really am. Does a part of me feel sad? Yes, it does, just because I hate the fact that we won the cup and 5 years later we've missed the playoffs now 2 years in a row. That sucks. Okay. So, a lot of feelings about that one. But what I will say is this is we still have something to be super, super proud of as a fan base, as a team, as an organization. And no one's going to take that away from us. We were able to witness the Blues' first ever Stanley Cup in franchise history only 5 years ago. It's still fresh, right? Think about all those teams. Think about the fact that there has been no Canadian team that's won a cup since 1993. So when you think about it like that, and you think about the fact that for us, this happened 5 years ago and we got to witness it, maybe some of you a little bit later in life, I don't know. All I know is that I was able to witness it during a time where I'm going to be able to remember it for the rest of my life. And I think that's really special. So, again, let me know how you feel about how this week went for you. Was it a good week, a bad week, or kind of in the middle week for the St. Louis Blues and you as a fan? I will talk to you on Monday, unless there's breaking news, of course. But like always, let's go Blues.